folks, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you understand that incest is part of the story. You're not quite ready for how much is in this story. It's a lot of incest. It's a significant amount of active incest. Hello, House of the Dragon trailer. Okay. Welcome to the House of the Dragon trailer breakdown. I must admit, I felt the dragon stirring inside of me when I saw this. I'm pretty excited about it. This is adapted from, of course, George R. R. Martin's works. Specifically, if you wanted to read up on this, there is the Fire and Blood History Part 1 of the Targaryen dynasty. It is very much a history book. Not a lot of plot and character stuff. Basically, like this happens and then this happens and then this happens, kind of. But it is very informative, and it will tell you a lot about this period in Targaryen history, during which a succession crisis leads to an outright civil war between two factions of the Targaryen family. So this is Matt Smith's Daemon Targaryen. Daemon Targaryen is the younger brother of King Viserys Targaryen. They are very different people. Daemon is a great warrior, a renowned hothead and fiery guy, very ambitious, kind of a loose cannon, will just kind of like go off and strike up like a romantic relationship with people that the realm doesn't agree that he should have a relationship with. But he is a very important antagonist and influencer of the events that would lead to the Dance of Dragons Civil War, and then of course he takes part in it. He is a supporter of Princess / Queen Rhaenyra, and their faction is known as the Black Faction, which is a reference to the Targaryen colors. Here he is in tunnels, perhaps under Dragonstone, perhaps under King's Landing. I'm gonna guess Dragonstone, though. An HBO original series. Gods. Okay, now here is what appears to be the skull or the head of a dead dragon. So I'm guessing that's Velaryon the Black Dread's skull. Now, of course, we saw his skull in Game of Thrones, underneath King's Landing. I'm guessing, looks a little less desiccated, so Velaryon died in 94 after the conquest, 94 AC. Events of this show take place 20 to 30 years after that. So, quite possible that this is Velaryon's head that just looks a little fresher. Ah, Hand of the King. So, okay, who could this be? I think the most likely person this is Sir Otto Hightower of House Hightower. Very powerful, very influential man. He was the Hand of the King under old King Jaehaerys, the previous king before Viserys, who was his grandson. Jaehaerys, the Conciliator, he ruled for 55 years. I think you could argue that he was the greatest Targaryen king. Certainly, the realm reached its most stable period during that time. But a lot of the issues that plague the realm during our story, during this period, have their roots during the reign of old King Jaehaerys. Now, again, Otto Hightower was a Hand of the King during the reign of Jaehaerys, and then later he would be Hand of the King under his grandson, King Viserys. And Otto Hightower's daughter is Alicent Hightower, Queen Alicent. Otto brought her to court when she was a teenager, very young, and she became a kind of like a companion or a nurse of sorts to the old king as he was nearing the end of his life. He was very fond of Alicent Hightower, would occasionally refer to her as if she was his daughter, Sarah, who has a pretty tangled story that the show may or may not explore. And of course, later, Alicent Hightower would marry Viserys Targaryen, and she would become Queen Alicent Hightower, the second wife of King Viserys. King Viserys was married previously to a woman named Emma. And it would not surprise you, of course, that Otto Hightower would support the claims of his grandchildren, Alicent Hightower's children with King Viserys, as they seek to, ascend to the Iron Throne. He becomes a very important person in that faction, the so-called Green faction. And again, a very, very influential, very formidable man. Could also be Criston Cole, played by Fabian Frankel. Criston Cole is a well-known and famous warrior, great teacher of the arts of war, whose romantic feelings toward Princess Rhaenyra eventually turned to hatred. Now, seeing as how we see young Princess Rhaenyra in flashback here, I guess it's possible that it is Criston Cole, but I'm betting on Otto Hightower. Anyway, moving on. Kings. Here we see the bottom half of the face of King Viserys Targaryen, and we see him wielding the Sword of Kings, Blackfire, as well as his signet ring with the three-headed dragon on it. Here he is sitting on the Iron Throne. King Viserys is, again, the grandson of old King Jaehaerys and the older brother of Daemon Targaryen, who we saw earlier in the trailer. Viserys is like the chill guy. He is the happy-go-lucky guy. He is not super ambitious, is not particularly interested in like the hard work of ruling the realm. He leaves that to his small council, which is why Otto Hightower has the sort of pull as Hand of the King that he does, because Viserys kind of just lets him run stuff. So Otto is kind of like de facto the king, and that causes a lot of friction with the supporters of Princess Rhaenyra. Now, King Viserys, again, his brother is Daemon, the fiery, warlike Daemon Targaryen. His wife, second wife, is Alicent Hightower, and his daughter is Princess Rhaenyra. Now, his King Viserys' inability to, like, mediate the rivalry between his second wife, Alicent Hightower, and his beloved daughter and heir, Princess Rhaenyra, is a huge factor in this war popping off. Now, I think you could argue, because like a lot of these issues had started decades and decades earlier, that maybe by the time that King Viserys and Alicent are together, there's actually nothing that could have been done to avoid an all-out war. But all of which is beside the point, because like King Viserys really doesn't do a lot to avoid it, at least in the books. And Daemon Targaryen does a lot of things to incite the conflict, to cause disruptions, to destabilize the realm. And because Viserys has such warm feelings towards his brother Daemon, they had a great childhood growing up, like together, they were companions. Viserys is often like, forget it, I forgive him. Just let that go. and he just like lets a lot of stuff go. So, not the kind of ominous, stern figure that this image suggests. Viserys is a very chilled out, happy, smiling guy, at least in the books. This is young Princess Rhaenyra, followed by the adult Princess Rhaenyra, here seen here with her important ally and uncle, Daemon. Anyway, here's Princess Rhaenyra. So she was known as the Realm's Delight, particularly when she was younger, a younger woman. She is the only surviving child of King Viserys' union with Queen Aemma Arryn of the Vale. And Viserys loves his daughter, Rhaenyra. Loves her. The realm loves her. She is super popular. She is a great leader. She has a lot of support in the realm. And King Viserys very explicitly names her his heir. This is important for several reasons. First, this bucks established tradition that placed the male line over the female line. So this would be kind of like a revolutionary thing for Princess Rhaenyra to ascend to the Iron Throne. And two, it puts Rhaenyra in direct conflict with his second wife, Queen Alicent, who very much wants her children to ascend to the Iron Throne. They would be dispossessed by Viserys' decision to make Rhaenyra his heir. So, automatic conflict right there. Here they are, one would imagine, standing on the shores of Dragonstone, staring out across the narrow sea, wondering how they will take Rhaenyra's birthright, right? Let us continue. Here is a tournament, one would expect, or some kind of, now this has got to be a tournament of some sort. And here we see knights clad in black with the sigil of House Targaryen, the red dragon on the black. Again, this is why Rhaenyra and her supporters are called the Blacks, because they believe that they are acting according to the will of King Viserys, that Rhaenyra should be queen, and therefore they are the authentic Targaryen decision here. They are the authentic Targaryen political party. Corlys Velaryon. Corlys Velaryon of House Velaryon of Driftmark and Hightide. They are of ancient Velaryon lineage, as the name Velaryon suggests. They are old allies of the Targaryens. They have long supported House Targaryen, and if you would believe the Velaryon histories, they were actually in Westeros first. Like, they had been on Driftmark and kind of like exploring the region before the Targaryens settled on Dragonstone. Corlys Velaryon is the greatest sea captain, the greatest sailor that Westeros has ever known. As a young man, he had explored, basically the entire known world, all over Essos, the Summer Islands, the Summer Seas, the Shivering Sea, gone all the way far, far, far east to Yi Ti, and in the course of those travels had basically created a trading empire and had made himself one of the richest men in the realm, and made House Velaryon one of the richest and most influential houses in the Seven Kingdoms. A very, very formidable person, certainly someone you don't ever want to see at sea. Like, his fleets are powerful and there's no one better on the waves than him. Oh, here he is with his family. So first of all, you see the seahorse sigil here on the chest. He is next to Princess Rhaenys Velaryon, his wife, aka the queen who never was. She is the daughter of Crown Prince Aemon Targaryen, who was at one point the heir of old King Jaehaerys until he passed away. Now, this is an important relationship because Princess Rhaenys is called the Queen Who Never Was because her claim to the throne was passed over at the Great Council of 101 after the deaths of Aemon Targaryen and Baelor, the kind of like two obvious heirs to old King Jaehaerys. He convened a Great Council at Harrenhal where a lot of these issues were hashed out, like who's going to succeed. Princess Rhaenys's claim was put forward, but there just was not a lot of support for prioritizing the female line of succession like that. I think the votes were something rumored to be like 20-1 against her. And so this family already feels that they have lost the throne once, unjustifiably, right? They kind of like they were like, fine, we get it, 20-1, votes against, we're gonna let this go, but we feel strongly about it. Like, we feel that we have been hard done by. Now, their child is seen here in the background. That is Rhaenyra Velaryon. Rhaenyra is married to Princess Rhaenyra. I think a lot of the jousting and the knights and the kind of like crowds we see here and the feasting are the celebrations of the wedding of Rhaenyra Velaryon to Princess Rhaenyra. So, as Queen Alicent's Green Party begins their kind of like machinations to acquire the throne, the Velaryon family has already felt like they've lost the throne once because of Princess Rhaenys' claim being denied. As the Greens start agitating to deny Princess Rhaenyra's claim, they feel like, oh my god, it's happening again. We're going to get screwed out of the throne again because, you know, through their son, Rhaenyra, and his wedding to Princess Rhaenyra, here again, they are about to ascend to like the highest rungs of power and influence. Their son will be king consort to Queen Rhaenyra. And so they feel that they're being screwed again by the Greens, and so that is a huge motivating factor for why Corlys Velaryon and their family throw themselves into this fight with such vigor, because they've already been screwed once, and they don't want it to happen again. Here are what we'd assume are they're walking into a feasting hall, and we see King Viserys here, and who we assume is Princess Rhaenyra sitting next to him. So this is guessing the wedding celebrations. This is Mysaria, the White Worm, which is a derisive nickname. I'm not sure anybody called her the White Worm to her face. Mysaria, the White Worm, a native of Lys, a kind of the lover, paramour, and head of intelligence for Prince Daemon Targaryen. She is a dangerous political operator, and a very distrusted figure within Westerosi society, because she comes from a foreign country, from Lys, and because of her kind of sordid origins. And also the fact that Daemon Targaryen, their relationship is heavily frowned upon by the people of Westeros. Dangerous figure. Here is Queen Alicent Hightower. Now, here is Queen Alicent. She seems very troubled in this. She's holding a dagger. My guess here is that she is reacting to one of the important inciting incidents of this war, which is the maiming of her son, Aemon Targaryen. Now, again, Queen Alicent very, very much so wants her kids to ascend the Iron Throne, not Princess Rhaenyra and her kids. She's like, I am the wife of the king. This is bullshit. A woman has never ascended to the throne. The daughter of the king has never been the heir. That's established tradition. I want my kids to be on the throne. What the fuck? So, anyway, I'm guessing that she is reacting to the maiming of her son Aemon in a kind of like in a scrum, in a fight that leads directly to the schism and outright warfare, or at least leads to the feelings that contribute to that warfare. That's just a guess. Again, some more jousting and stuff. Again, I would imagine that these are the wedding feasts, the wedding celebrations of Princess Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon. There is like a mysterious fight that causes the death of a notable person from House Velaryon. This may be that event. The best said about it is very little, because I don't want to spoil anything in case they do put that particular mysterious fatal fight in. But I wonder what this could be. I think it's important. It's important to note that a lot of this stuff appears from, if you're thinking about the books and flashbacks to like young Princess Rhaenyra aside, all of this stuff appears to be from around the union of Laenor and Rhaenyra, which is kind of like the beginning and years before the actual war pops off. So it's possible that like all of the stuff that we're seeing in this trailer is like from 1 or maybe 2 episodes of the actual series.
Dreams didn't make us kings.
Okay, here we have the Iron Throne. Important to note that, so this is a more book correct Iron Throne. George R. R. Martin intended the throne made from the melted swords of Aegon Targaryen's enemies and the people he conquered. In the books, it's like 30 feet tall. Like the king has to walk up a flight of steps on the front of the throne to get all the way to the throne that's like at the top of this long ramp. And it's huge. Like this is more like what it was in the books, very jagged with all the swords around and stuff, looking very sharp and very dangerous, to the point where if you sat on it and were not cognizant of what you're doing, you could cut yourself, as Viserys does at one time, King Viserys. But it's still a good 20 feet shorter than it is in the books. But there it is, looking more like its book self.
Dragons did.
Now, Daemon Targaryen saying dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did, is very interesting. So, of course, again, Daemon is a huge instigator in this fight and a combatant in this fight. And here he is arguing, certainly to Princess Rhaenyra and her supporters or whoever, hey, let's take what's ours. We have dragons. Let's fight for the throne. Let's fight for our birthright. It is also a reference to kind of like an important figure in the origins of the Targaryen family, Daenerys the Dreamer Targaryen, 100 years before Aegon Targaryen conquered Westeros, when the Targaryen family was still in Old Valyria, right? Daenerys the Dreamer had this prophetic vision that Valyria would be destroyed, and she convinced her family, like, this is gonna happen, we need to get out of here. So they sold a lot of their belongings, they took their dragons, and they left Valyria and they settled on Dragonstone. And then sometime later, Old Valyria was destroyed in the cataclysm known as the Doom of Valyria, which turned it into like this toxic, smoking, probably cursed wasteland. And the Targaryens were the only dragon riders to survive, the only member of like the elite to survive. Now, Valyria was, it was like ruled by its most powerful families, the dragon riders, and by no means were the Targaryens one of the most powerful. They were like a middling to less powerful, certainly on the lower range of power of the ruling families. But because they got out of the Doom and survived, they immediately became one of the most, arguably the most powerful figure in the known world, in the entire world of this story, certainly in the known world, because they have dragons, as Daemon Targaryen is noting here. They have dragons, which is a weapon of mass destruction. Nobody else has these. You can wipe out entire armies with a dragon and have a very, very small actual fighting force, and you can conquer a continent, which Aegon Targaryen did. So kind of a reference to that, and, put respect on Daenerys the Dreamer's name. She doesn't deserve to catch strays like this. Folks, that's it. I'm super excited. I feel that old Game of Thrones feeling again. I'm excited! Let's go!